So Amy Duddleston, the film editor of the wonderful HBO limited series Mare of Easttown, I'm going to start by asking you a toughie. You've got 7 episodes. Think of them as your 7 children. Which one's your
Yes.
favorite?
Oh, episode 3. I can go right to episode 3.
So why?
It has like all the, we call it like the family drama with a murder mystery thrown into it. So episode 3 kind of had like a lot of family drama and the murder mystery like starting to like ramp up. So it was just really fun. And it was like Mare's ex-husband becomes a suspect and the priest becomes a suspect. And then it's like, her personal life is happening and all of this stuff. It was just a very satisfying, like they find the murder scene, the crime scene. A lot of stuff happens and it's just, I don't know. It was my favorite.
Well, because so my favorite was episode 5. Because and in doing my research about you, I know you were the film editor for Gus Van Sant's remake of Psycho, like the shot-by-shot remake.
Yes.
And I didn't know that when I was watching it, and when Evan Peters is killed, his character, I immediately flashed back to Psycho, and I thought, they've done it. It's Janet Leigh. Nobody expects Janet Leigh to be killed.
No, you don't expect him to be killed off. He's beloved already, and
So, but I mean, I'd love to know. I mean, because I understand that there was sort of pre-COVID shooting of some and then during COVID. And that, I think, was shot during COVID, wasn't it? The sequence in that house?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
it was.
I'd love to know, first, let's talk a little tiny bit about, I know you said episode 3 your favorite, but I'm going to indulge me with episode 5.
No worries. It was a favorite of many people.
It was so, like, I really was a gasp moment when he shot. But so how do you, I know so little about film editing, like how do you put that sequence together, the tension building, and then the shock of that moment?
I mean,
and sorry, leading
it's
up to
a lot of pieces,
because he's in such a good place. We're so in love with him and with her, and then
and he kissed her, and like he's just being brave, and he told her the truth that he's not this like hero person. And and then boom, and it's tragic. It's a lot of pieces, and there was a lot leading up to that. There was a lot in that episode that was just a bunch of stuff. And it's the thing that I think worked for that whole moment was our show doesn't have a lot of stuff like that. Right. It doesn't. It doesn't have giant, that was a big set piece. And until you get to the end, there's more of those, but there's it's like, we didn't have a lot of like shooting and it's not that kind of a show. So to have that sequence, I think really kind of threw people at first, like the tension of like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? She's unarmed. He has a gun. We know the guy, Wayne Potts, has a gun. So it was just all those little pieces of, the girls are upstairs banging on the pipe. It's just like knowing when to, like, every time you turn a screw and things get tighter, it's just knowing when to turn the screw. And,
and then really, and then the tension he gets. Yeah. And then, really, I know he got, and I can't particularly, I turned away. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he lived. Maybe it wasn't.
No, a lot of people thought that too. I'm like, his brains are on the wall. Yeah. But it's okay. I know. And a lot of people turned away too, because they were like, I hope he's still alive. Yeah. But no.
Yeah. So when you make something like this, and I know it was a long time involved from the two shooting. How do you, once it started, you must have been badgered by people wanting to know. HBO was so secretive about this. I was begging for episodes in advance and barely getting them. So how do you
I know, and the worst part was, we gave the press like the first
yeah,
5 episodes, and like
yes,
that giant cliffhanger, and you need to know what happened. And
yeah.
we were still working on the other episodes, so that's what we were doing.
Okay.
You couldn't have them because we were like episode 5. We literally finished it and sent it off. Like that was the last one. Like that was the day. Like everything in there was temp. Like that, the music, like everything in it was temp. So that was like the least, ready
Right.
of all of them. I mean, it was, we felt it was finished, but it was the one that was the least polished. Let's just say that it didn't have like a sound mix well done and everything. Like the music was still temp.
So but as the show is unfolding and week in and week out, you must have people badgering you to tell,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, every week. They were mad that they couldn't binge it, and I'm like, you've forgotten how to watch television.
So when they come to you with this idea, this project, and I know there was another editor that was sort of involved initially. Yeah. But when you read this, I assume did you read the whole script? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So so one, were you surprised who did it?
Oh, yes. Very much.
Right.
Very much.
And then two, I'm curious because it was a surprise once I finally got to see everything, I did go back and then sort of rewatch some, trying to figure out, well, where were the little clues dropped? And really, right from the time we see the little boy, the editing and with the director, I mean, there were clues. I mean, we
were dropping clues.
Yeah, I know. So how much fun did you have on social media seeing all these red herrings being snapped up by people?
Oh my God, it was hilarious. I mean, just the initial, just the outpouring of love for the show was really mind-blowing. Like we had no idea that people were going to enjoy it and have as much fun with it as they did. I mean, we knew people would like it because it's Kate Winslet and it's, I mean, she's brilliant. But we just had no idea people would have so much fun that like Stephen King would like announce that he knew, who did it and wasn't going to tell us until the day of this, episode and all of that stuff. And just like getting emails every week, from people like, I think Frank did it. And I think, Richard did it. And I'm like, I can't say anything. Yeah. So it was a blast.
So I mean, like I said, you a lot of it was shot, but nothing, you didn't have enough to sort of start editing because my understanding is that everything was shot, but not single episodes.
Not like we didn't have like a completely finished episode. Everything was shot. Everything was cross-borted. Everything was from October 2019 up until March 12th. They had been shooting. So we had lots of like we had almost 45 minutes to like about 50 minutes of every episode already shot. And many of them were way over an hour long when we finished the editor's cut. So there was a lot of work to do just in terms of like compressing things. But when I was put in charge of the show, what I did was go through every single episode for 6 months. I mean, they thought, like HBO initially when we shut down, it was like, oh yeah, in 6 weeks we'll come back. And I was like, yeah, it was 6 months. So from April to September, I recut the entire show, but I worked with the director, Craig Zobel, and the showrunner, Brad Inglesby, and we did like director's cut, producer's cut. We even sent it to HBO. They didn't weigh in yet because they wanted to wait until all the episodes were finished. So we had a really good idea of like where we were and also what we needed to shoot. Like some things got taken out of the script because one, COVID, like some really big scenes where Siobhan goes to a concert and meets the girl instead of going to the radio station and meeting the girl. You know, like that, it was supposed to be, you know, a much bigger scene. The wedding at the end was supposed to be bigger. So of course it got shrunk down to like the end of the wedding. The restaurant, you know, it was like anything where there was a crowd definitely got cut down. And just some things, you know, I mean, by the time they finished shooting, like the second surge was happening. So every day we were just praying that like nobody, you know, got sick and that we didn't have to shut down again. And thankfully it did not happen.
When you've got the bulk of it done pre, and then you get this, was it difficult to because I guess you didn't have to integrate.
No, it wasn't. They were so, like, everybody was so ready to come back and kind of pick up where they left off. And we had like a lot of the same crew people, like they were just ready to come back to work. I mean, so it was amazing. I mean, and it just, you know.
You sort of said, you know, the family drama, the murder mystery, there's a lot of comedic elements.
Oh, yes.
So does each element require a slightly different eye when you're editing? Like, do you edit like the when she's sort of up there in the fishing camp, or the reveal of the murder versus sort of some of those lighter moments with?
Oh, sure. The lighter moments, you're just kind of following, you know, I mean, a lot of the lighter moments revolved around Jean Smart, who's just a genius. We all know now. So it's like, I mean, we all knew she was a genius. I was so excited when I found out she was going to play Mare's mom. But just also Kate Winslet, Evan Peters, like they all know how to be funny. They're all just great actors. And so those moments just kind of came out naturally, and not being afraid to cut to them. I mean, I think some of it, you know, when you are in a very serious drama and it's a murder mystery, but you need those moments. And so I was told to kind of look for them and seriously mine them more where I could.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it is a heavy show. It's not, you know, it's not super easy to watch. And when you have those moments where, you know, Kate Winslet is in the car laughing hysterically at her mother, who you've just found out has had an affair with, you know.
Right. That's I think where the edit is so perfect, because you don't know what's going to happen after that, you know. And so I really felt like the fact that it punches and it comes in on the lap, and it's great because you do have that tension. And then it's like, oh, because Mare is complicated enough.
Yes.
One of the other, because it's what I also found so interesting as a viewer to watch was then them like looking at the documentary that Siobhan's making.
Oh, yes.
So were you Siobhan's editor? Did you edit?
Kinda. I mean, it was funny. I put my assistants in charge of Siobhan's documentary because I thought that, you know, this is a fun thing for them to do. Right. And I'm always trying to give them like little creative things to do other than the drudgery of you know, turnovers and all of their assistant work. So we all ended up being the editors of Siobhan's little documentary. I mean, there were times where like Brad Inglesby would say, you know, we need something else for this. And so he would go out and shoot something, you know, on his phone, and then we would add it in. And then we had some stuff, you know, so it just kept evolving.
Right. So you mentioned that, you know, the episodes and that they were more than an hour, because I think they pretty much all clocked 58:59. So was there was there a scene that you had to cut out that you loved?
Oh yeah, there were a lot of scenes that we had to cut out. So yeah, I mean, to make room for other stuff. I mean, the things that ended up coming out, it wasn't important. I mean, really, it was like stuff that we had a couple scenes with Guy Pearce,
right, that
we didn't need to like follow up with him on. I mean, there were a couple things that I wish we, you know, kept in, but we chose something else to leave in instead because it was probably more important for a character. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just tightening things and taking lines of dialogue out. A lot of it was that. So it wasn't so, giant chunks of things. It was like little chunks of things. And
So
yeah.
is it a sort of a trick of the trade? Like, are you sometimes surprised where you kind of find a few seconds here and a few seconds there, and
Yes.
suddenly you've got a minute or 2 minutes?
Yeah, no, it is a trick of it. It's just everything adds up. That's when you're trying to like cut things down and make it, 58 minutes long. So,
well, I think part of why it resonated so much with people is because it was so packed, and yet it didn't
yes.
feel rushed, if that makes sense. Like, there were lots
No, it does.
Yeah.
It was a thing that we tried to do. We did not rush it along. It's like scenes took their time. It's like we took our time telling this story, and
right.
it was very deliberate
story. And
yeah.
I think, I don't know if you saw the news today, but the head of HBO saying, well, if Brad's got an idea for season 2, yeah. We're open. He doesn't have an idea as of this.
No, and not of this moment. No, he does not. And he spent a lot of time on this show. So I don't, I think he was ready to like put it in the rearview mirror. So, the fact that like everybody reacted to it as much as they did was a bit of a surprise just for all of us, I think,
But as did you, and I know you worked on The Killing seasons 1 and 2.
Yes.
I think this must, even though those were many more episodes, this must have been probably the longest amount of time you spent on a project.
Oh yeah, it was 18 months. I mean, for me, for sure.
So when I was sort of doing a little bit of research on you and looking and trying to understand who you were, and your Twitter feed is beyond delicious. I'm now following. So I will again admit I did not know who Dede Allen was, and you brought her to my attention. So what I love is, this isn't what you intended to be me. You intended to be a journalist asking people questions. So tell us who Dede Allen was and why she inspired you to become a filmmaker.
Well, Dede Allen was a film editor back, in the 70s. I mean, she really made her mark. She cut Dog Day Afternoon and Serpico and Bonnie and Clyde and some real classic cinema. And I was, a kid in college researching a paper for like my English class. And I was like looking through, you were at the library, and looking through old like New York Times magazines, looking for an article. And I literally like came across this photo of her and an article about when she was editing Reds. And I was like, what is this woman doing? Like, it was a picture of her touching, like she had her hands on film reels, and, her glasses were like this. And she just looked like the coolest. It looked like, I was like, what is this woman doing? So I read the article, and I was like, that job sounds amazing. I want that job. Like, that sounds like I had already been a film buff, and I was already, my mother raised me on watching movies. And so I already understood like directors and everything, but I didn't know, women could do this part. I mean, it was kind of a male dominated field. And so when I saw this, no, and it didn't, no. And it,
but what I love is
there were more women.
As I recall, you also talked about that, not knowing who'd cut Raging Bull, but Raging Bull had resonated with you.
Yes.
As a film, like understanding, what the role editing plays, and then the fact that that's cut by the goddess of editors,
yes,
filmmaker. I mean, it's just so wonderful, and I love that. I know you do a lot of work with kind of bringing women into the profession that they once owned. Back when it wasn't considered. It was kind of just crank them out, and now there's this artistry, and really I have to commend you for the artistry that you brought to Mare of Easttown.
Oh, thank you very much. No, it was a lot of work, but it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Just to be in charge of something like so vast. And yeah, I did need help. You know, I mean, I had a co-editor come and help me when HBO decided, like, when it was New Year's and we were going to start, like, we had finished the new editor's cuts on Christmas Eve 2020. That was when we finished everything. All the episodes were finished. It was a great moment. And we were all working from home too. And, you know, once we started in, HBO was like, we would like to have this show in April. And so we're like, okay, well, let's start working and see how this goes. And so I had an additional editor helping me do the dailies. Yes. And I brought her in to kind of co-edit and kind of take over doing notes with producers and stuff, just on a couple of the episodes. Right. And that was great, just to have a collaborator.
Exactly.
Naomi Filoramo, yeah.
You love the process and the collaborative process, working with the director and the creator, and it's wonderful. Well, again, congratulations, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Absolutely.